What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about the Battle of Vimy Ridge. And from what I can tell here, this appears to be a very significant Canadian event during World War One. But to be honest, I've really never heard of this battle before. I've said this before in the past. Here in America, we really do not learn about Canadian history. I mean, even these kinds of significant events that affect America as well. So today, I'm just really interested in learning about the Battle of Vimy Ridge for the very first time and what this meant for Canada and the rest of the world. Side note, this video we're going to check out is narrated by William Shatner. So that's nice. Okay, let's take a look.
The winter of 1917 was the coldest France had seen in 40 years.
Oh, geez.
In April, there was still snow on Vimy Ridge.
Vimy Ridge.
The Germans controlled the ridge, and thousands of French and British lives had been lost trying to capture it.
Oh, my God.
Now, it was the Canadians' turn.
Oh, my God. What an introduction. What an intro. That kind of sets the stage of where we are. We're in France, somewhere called Vimy Ridge. They didn't really explain, maybe they will explain it, but what is the importance of Vimy Ridge? It's in France. People are fighting and dying over this ridge. Why is it so important? But regardless, the Germans are holding it, and it's now been put on, the hands of the Canadian military to try to battle out and win this Vimy Ridge.
At 5 a.m. on Easter Monday, April 9th, 30,000 troops huddled below the ridge.
Oh, God.
Many of them in subterranean caverns that had been dug, waiting for the signal.
Wow, they actually have video of this? That's amazing. This was like 100 years ago, right? They actually have video and picture. Like, that is amazing to me. They did say this was like one of the coldest winters in recorded French history at the time, right? Just another perfect time to have to put your life on the line. You have to be cold as well. Actually, when you think about it, maybe that's kind of a advantage for Canadians. A lot of Canadians are probably used to operating in the cold. It might actually have been kind of a good thing.
Zero hour was 5:30. The attack had been meticulously planned. Behind the lines, a replica of Vimy Ridge had been created, and the Canadians trained there until they knew the terrain as well as the Germans.
No way. Holy cow. The Canadians don't mess around. You guys built a replica of the battleground, Vimy Ridge? You trained on a replica to make sure that you would be ready and know the battleground and your tactics, and that is so smart. It's not, you can't normally do that kind of thing, though. Holy cow, Canada. That is a level of preparation. I'm assuming Canada came out as the winner in this fight, or we wouldn't be sitting here listening to William Shatner narrate it, right? So all this preparation must have really, really worked.
They had detailed maps supplied by reconnaissance flights.
Yeah.
If old Kaiser Bill only saw the preparations that had been made, wrote 21-year-old Lieutenant Claude Williams, he would throw up the sponge, I'm sure.
The enemy? If the enemy knew how much preparation the Canadian army was putting into this, they would have just surrendered. I bet there's some truth to that.
Each of the 4 divisions had an objective indicated by a colored line. The black line was the enemy's forward defenses. The red line was the taking of Hill 145. The blue line included Hill 135, and the brown line was the German second line.
Okay.
The coordinated assaults were timed to the minute.
How are they going to do this, though? There's 2 lines of German defenses, 4 different Canadian divisions battling over these hills and ridges, Vimy Ridge. I'm still not sure what the significance of this battle is. I'm sure they're going to talk about that. They gotta. Like, why are we doing this? Why for this land in particular? And why is it just purely placed on the shoulders of Canadians to do this? Like, I know they said the British tried, the French tried, they failed. And it's like, shouldn't there be like some kind of coordinated effort between the allied countries working together? Instead, it's just like, okay, Canadians, do your thing. That's basically what happened.
At 5:30, more than 3,000 pieces of artillery roared.
Wow, really?
The first wave of 15,000 infantry stormed the ridge.
Wow.
The German machine guns were devastating, but the infantry pushed through to the front line trenches.
Oh my God. Yeah, these war videos, like, man, you got to really try to put yourself there. It's easy to just like hear about, oh, World War I. Yeah, that thing. Yep, that was a thing. It's like, no, it's more than that. It's soldiers running into machine gun fire to fight for your life and freedom. And I think seeing the images and hearing about it like this really puts that into perspective. So they started by shooting all these artillery cannons, thousands of them. And then, I guess as you do in war, what it comes down to sometimes is men on the ground who are braver than anyone will ever possibly know, unless you're in this situation, running into gunfire to overwhelm the opponent, basically.
By 6:15, the black line had been taken.
Wow. 6:15. That's like after 45 minutes. 45 minutes later, they've already taken the first line of German defense.
Concealed by snow and smoke, the 1st Division advanced toward the red line. By 7 a.m., the German defenses had been cleared, although casualties were mounting.
Wow.
By 11 a.m., the blue line was in Canadian hands, and by 2 p.m., the brown line was secure.
All in one day.
By the end of the following day, all that remained was the Pimple.
The Pimple?
The northern tip of the ridge, which was defended by Prussian guards.
Okay. Jeez, you'd think after all that, once the Canadian military came in one day overtook the entire ridge, numerous lines of defense, like just like that, with superior tactics, perfect training, you'd think they would just like give up the Pimple. The Pimple. You would think, like, this is just the way this recollection story presents this history. It wasn't even close. Like, Canada just literally destroyed the opponent.
At 5 a.m. on April 12th, the Canadians hit the Pimple with heavy artillery. The 10th Brigade advanced and met with fierce hand-to-hand fighting.
Oh, geez.
By 6 a.m., the position was taken.
Okay. Just like that. Just like that, where other countries had failed. I think they said British tried, French tried, maybe the others tried. Canada came in, did the work. Obviously, the training and the practice that they were talking about had a big impact. Because Canada just came in, and I mean, that's all you had to do. Just call in Canada. Be like, hey, we need this ridge. I'm still kind of wondering what the significance of all this is. It was executed incredibly well. That's obvious to me. but what does it mean?
I am King of the Pimple, declared Brigadier General Edward Hilliam.
King of the Pimple. King
Vimy
of
was
the
taken.
Pimple. I'm gonna start yelling that. I'm gonna start yelling that at home. When I pop a big juicy pimple, I'm King of the Pimple, and they'll be like, okay, I'll be like, hey, I heard it just like at the Battle of Vimy Ridge, and they'll be like, the Battle of what?
Though the costs were high, 10,602 casualties, 3,598 dead,
How many casualties?
and 602.
Did they say 10,000?
Vimy was taken. Though the costs were high, 10,602 casualties, 3,598 dead.
Wait, isn't a casualty a death? How are there 10,000 casualties and 3,000 dead? Is that on the Canadian side? I'm a little confused. I thought a casualty was a death.
But in 6 days, the Corps had advanced 5 kilometers, taken Vimy Ridge, taken 4,000 prisoners, killed many of the enemy, and captured its guns.
Wow. Wow.
The grandest day the Corps has ever had, said Major General Arthur Currie.
Really?
The attack was carried out exactly as planned. The sight was awful and wonderful.
Jeez. So this is one of the biggest, most important Canadian military victories ever. According to this, I think it's saying that.
Vimy Ridge defined the Canadian Corps.
Oh.
It was filled with men who had been born in Britain, but they now considered themselves Canadian.
Oh, interesting.
They had proven themselves as an elite corps. They had accomplished what the French and British couldn't.
Right. So this was a very particular regiment, called the Canadian Corps in particular. It's a good photo.
Gregory Clark, an infantry lieutenant, wrote, "As far as I could see south-north along the miles of the ridge, there were Canadians, and I experienced my first full sense of nationhood.
Wow.
At home, the country felt the same way.
I can
Vimy
only
Ridge
imagine.
became a touchstone of Canadian nationalism.
So Canada learned about this back home, huge military success. And so most Canadians know about this Battle of Vimy Ridge. This is like something you're taught about and celebrate in Canada. That's very interesting. Now, I already said this isn't something I've heard about. I've heard about battles and stuff, like in history class growing up, and not the Battle of Vimy Ridge, though.
Our proudest moment in the war.
Proudest moment in the war?
Our proudest moment in the war.
Wow. What is this? Like a monument? Wow. Oh, is that it? That's it. What? Oh, the rest is just credits? Oh, the rest is just credits. Okay. Man. That was awesome. And William Shatner did a darn good job at narrating it. So that taught me about how Canada did it and how incredible and overwhelming of a victory it was, and how much it means to Canada and Canadian history. I think I'm going to look up some of the questions that I still have, particularly what was the significance of Canada winning the Battle of Vimy Ridge? What was the significance of it? Why was it so important for World War I? That's the only thing I want clarified to me. Let's see AI do its thing. Okay, the Canadian Corps, fighting as a unified force, captured Vimy Ridge in northern France. It's a strategically important position. Attempts by British and French had previously failed. The Canadian victory demonstrated innovative tactics and meticulous planning. Yes, we did learn about that. Um, and the battle marked Canada as a formidable fighting force within the Allied armies. So this was really, really big for Canada, like showing many things about Canada's fighting power, fighting ability. It was just an important victory because the British and French had failed and Canada has succeeded. It was, they said, a strategically important position. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at here. Vimy Ridge is seen as a defining moment in Canada's nationhood. Really, this is like a much more big deal than I realize, I think. In Canadian history, and as they say, Canada's forming nationhood. All four divisions of the Canadian Corps fought together for the first time, gave Canadians a distinct identity and pride. Yes, yes. Separate from Britain, right, because Canada was part of the British Empire. It's Canada's coming of age on the world stage. Wow. Yeah, I'm glad this is clearing up the significance of all this. This victory at Vimy Ridge. Canada suffered 10,000 casualties. So, are we saying casualties are just if you're injured? Killed or injured? Okay, I didn't know that. I thought that meant dead. Okay. Battle became a symbol of sacrifices Canadians made during World War I. The Vimy Memorial honors all Canadians who fought and died at the war. Yep, I think we saw the memorial. Um, okay. What about Vimy Ridge? In particular, the place was so important to win over, we'll say. What about Vimy Ridge, the actual geographical ridge in France? Why was that so important to get it? It had high ground. It was an elevated ridge near a town in northern France. It was high up and strategic to own it from a tactical point of view. The height gave German forces a commanding view of the Allied positions below. So it was really the fact that Germany had the ridge and was using it to, assault and attack Allied forces very easily. From this vantage point, Germans could see far into the Allied lines, spot troop movements, and advancing. So, okay. It was part of a strong German defensive line. Got it. Okay. It controlled important rail and road networks, supply lines. That's what I was wondering about. Okay. All right. Got it. So the victory was important strategically as a geographical spot, Vimy Ridge, and also maybe even the bigger story here is how much this meant for Canada. Canada's morale and reputation and, I don't know, victory and strength and military might, and the people of Canada back at home hearing about this and pride, and that's really cool. That's a whole part of this story I didn't quite understand, along with the actual battle itself. But I think with that's good. That's good. I get it. That's awesome. I can't believe we're not taught about this in America. This is obviously a huge moment in Canadian history, but I'm glad I finally got around to learning about it. So anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts. If you're Canadian, this must mean something to you. So please feel free to give your thoughts on the Battle of Vimy Ridge, what it means, and what you think about all this. That'd be awesome to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canada, learning about Canadian culture, seeing Canadian things I've never seen, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.